What's going on, Jeromes? Happy Monday out there, everyone, everywhere. Daily Jeromes live stream Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m.-ish Central Time, talking Vikings, talking draft. Got some Q&A. You guys are the best. Thanks for coming along. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Mike's Vids, do you think people are sleeping on the Vikings for the season? Yes. Or are people cautious on us entering the season? No. The national media jabroni haircuts hating on the Vikings is a tradition unlike any other, just like the Masters. Josiah Jenkins, if the Dolphins offered a first and second rounder for Brian O'Neill, yes. Well, it depends which first and second. If it's their top, like if it's 6 and their top second rounder, absolutely yes. Yes, I would do that. And then I would, well, if the Bengals, all right, so if quarterbacks go 1 through 4, and if the Bengals go Penny Sewell, I would take Kyle Pitts at 6. And then I would figure something out where we trade for Orlando Brown Jr. And then Oli Udoh could play right tackle. All right, we're off to the races. Or take, if Darrisaw's off board at 14, take Tevin Jenkins to play right tackle. And then package the second rounder for Orlando Brown. Yeah, okay, I'm in. So Brian O'Neill, then you end up netting Kyle Pitts and Orlando Brown Jr. Okay. I love Brian O'Neill, but Master Mike 1117. If the Vikings, for whatever reason, decide not to trade any of its 4 fourth-round draft picks, do you think they'll use all 4 picks for blah, 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 da, 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 da. Well, I think that's the meat of where there's going to be a lot of value for wide receiver. Maybe some of the 3 techs trickle down. Tight end, yeah, I think there's a bubble towards the top end of third round where like Tommy Tremble, Brevin Jordan are going to go. Safety, there's going to be a lot of really good safeties there. I think there's going to be a lot of really good cornerbacks. We said wide receivers, right? Yeah. And interior offensive linemen. So the Vikings, if they stick and pick in the 4th, they could still get a lot of value. Rudy Peel, apart from having an arm, what other traits or attributes does Zach Wilson have that make him rank higher than Fields and worthy of the number 2 spot? I think pocket awareness is a really big one where the Patrick Mahomes comparisons, they get tiresome after a while. It's just hyperbole and superlatives. But Zach Wilson does have a really nice feel for the pocket, and he has mobility where he isn't a running quarterback, but he's a quarterback who can run. But it's to buy extra time to keep scanning downfield. And of course, he has probably the best arm talent of any quarterback in this draft in terms of making a play downfield off schedule. So that's what's super appealing about him. Where with Fields, uber athlete, strong arm, can be accurate when protected, but when you get a little bit of heat on him, it can go south. Yeah, it really can. So all these quarterbacks, like even Lawrence, do have some drawbacks on them. They certainly do have a couple of cons on them. Lawrence, you talk about, he does have a long delivery. Wilson, caliber of competition, as well as basically a one-year wonder. Before this season, he was starting for BYU, except he was injured. He dealt with surgeries, etc. Trey Lance, love of competition, 2020 opt-out, one-year wonder as well. Mac Jones, is it Mac Jones or was it Bama? That's the big question. Patrick Harms, I've noticed when you do your mock drafts, you never even consider Amir Smith-Marset. Why is that? Did you see what he did at USC? I think he's fine, but it just speaks to the depth of this wide receiver class. So I don't go on my way to ignore ISM. It'd be what it be. Let me guess, are you a USC fan? Probably. Kane Russell, how much do you think the Clint Kubiak will actually evolve the offense, referring to an interview earlier in this year? I think that he will get away from the old school, just run, pass sort of concepts. Given his background as a quarterbacks coach as well as a wide receiver coach, I think the Vikings will potentially open it up more. But given the existing personnel, I don't think it could be a full transition. Plus, you do have Dalvin Cook. You do have an offensive line in place that is adept at running the ball. So it would be silly to ignore that. But I think the Vikings will modernize to a degree. Lazy L, why is Edge a need when we have Wanham and Hunter? That's a good question. So Hunter back at 100%. That is still an if. And DJ Wanham, I think that he can make a really nice leap in year 2. I mean, last year, by most metrics, he was the second best edge rusher in the National Football League for rookies besides Chase Young. So I think that he could really step up and progress in year 2. But This also isn't like a top end edge class. I like Kwity Paye. I understand him at 14. I like Jalen Phillips. The concussions are a concern. Jason Owett is raw and unproven. Rousseau has sunk like a stone. So, I don't know. DP, 1 year later, has a Rams logo grown on you or still hate it? I still think it's dumb. They should go back to the old one. John Anderson TV, hey man, happy Monday. Hope you had a great week. Same thing to you. Could you do a draft profile video on Kyle Trask? I thought we did do a video on Kyle Trask. I'll have to look. If not, we can do an updated one. Yeah, we could put that on the list of things to do. Christopher Frost, who's your I need him now backup quarterback in that's there in the fifth? They're in the fourth. Well, I think the problem is that second wave of quarterbacks, including Kellen Mond and Trask and Jamie Newman and Davis Mills, is going to go day 2, second, third round. So waiting on a guy in round 4, I'm not thrilled about any of those guys. Now, if you can get Mond, Trask, Newman, Mills in the 4th, absolutely, but I don't think that's a given. But also, I'm not going to overdraft Bouchele or Franks or Ellinger in the 4th. You can get him later on day 3, sure. But there isn't really a guy that I'm just like, who's likely going to be in the 4th, top of day 3, that I'm just like, yeah. Christine Hansen, are you doing a first round draft live stream? We'll probably do it like last year, where we'll stream until the Vikings pick, and then we gotta get to work. Eric Anderson, who's your top 3 draft options for wide receiver 3 return specialists? Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Kadarius Toney. Yeah. So those will be top end guys in the first round. We'll say day 2. I will go with Jalen Darden, Daz Newsome, Diami Brown. And there's so many other guys I'm missing. Like, this is just a great draft for that. Day 3, Cade Johnson. We mentioned Jalen Darden. Anthony Schwartz, even though he's not much of a returner. Who else? Stevenson, yes. Shi Smith, yes. I mean, this is just a stupid draft for speedy return guys. Hunter Williams, Skull from Savage, Minnesota. You are great. Hey, thank you. Do you see the Vikings drafting quarterback, cornerback, or a kicker? Quarterback, if the right one's there, meh. Cornerback, yes. Kicker, probably not. Although I think that they will make a UDFA guy a priority. Chris Danny Hansen, I heard that the Vikings are in on drafting a certain offensive lineman in at 14. If he's not there, they would trade down with Washington, draft defensive lineman, get a second-round pick, and trade that for Orlando Brown Jr. What do you think? Well, there would have to be a compelling reason for Washington to have to come up. Likely it's one of the quarterbacks remaining. But I think that just black and white like that, not even knowing what's available on the board, I think that is extremely wishful thinking. Plus, the mythical getting the first and the second round pick, I don't know. But if they can pull it off, sure. Like if Mac Jones or Trey Lance somehow makes it to 14, I think the Vikings should just take them. But if Washington wants to give up a lot and it's going to cost them a lot to come up, sure. And then flip it for Orlando Brown, go ahead. Carter, Niemisch, will the Vikings get back into the second round this year? Yes, I think they'll package up a 3rd and a 4th and maybe the 6th to do it, depending on how high in the second round. Angel Dutz Sr., I'm curiously optimistic that the Vikings took a look at Darius Stills. Your thoughts, day 2 or day 3? If they can get him in the 4th round, I think that'd be great value. Where you could see him falling because he is undersized. He is a unique rotational player, but yeah, I really like him as a rotational 3-tech guy. Ethan Griffith, have you looked into Quincy Roche? Personally think that he's the best pass rusher coming out of the U this year. Even better than Phillips and Rousseau. Wow. So Quincy Roche was a transfer coming out of Temple. He was a bad dude. I think was he like 3-time conference defensive player of the year? Stud, but undersized, a bit of a tweener. I do like Quincy Roche. I think that he could be a really nice day 3 value, but I'm not like standing on a table for him. Hey, let us know where you're watching from. We'll give a couple shout outs. Miles, what's your gut feeling player for the Vikings at 14? JC Horn. Or, I almost guarantee that Zimmer's like deploying the medical team. Hey, make sure you check out Caleb Farley. I could see Farley at 14. And I would be okay with it. If that back is good to go, Caleb Farley is the best cornerback in this draft. If fully healthy, he is. Brandon Kuselik, tater tots or French fries if you're eating them by themselves. I mean, tater tots are fun, and the kids obviously love tater tots, but French fries done well they're just different, man. So you got to fry them twice. So you got to blanch them, and then you got to crispy fry them. Yeah, just like if you go to a steakhouse that really does French fries well, like pommes frites, like French style. Yeah, go get that. Parney Comics, even though technically they're Belgian in origin, but can you explain what 1-tech, 3-tech, 5-tech, etc. is for me? Yep. So we do this every now and then. Let's see, defensive tech. Basically, it's where you line up, and it goes by shoulders generally. Can we get a better chart than this one? That'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Zoom in and enhance. So when you're talking about 0 or 1-tech, you're talking about the nose tackle. So you got the center, you got the guards, you got the tackle. So 0, 1-tech, 0 is going to be head up, 1-tech is going to be shading to one shoulder of the center, and then the 3-tech. So generally, we're talking about like 1-tech, 3-tech, 5-tech. So 3-tech is going to be on the outside shoulder of the guard. His responsibility is going to be that B gap on either side. So 3-tech, you're going to be on in between the guard and the tackle, just outside the shoulder, and just that's your responsibility. Whereas if you're a nose tackle, 0 or 1-tech, you're generally going to be, you do have the size, and you do have the strength to be able to control that center and control both of those A gaps. Whereas if you're talking about a 3-man front or a 3-4, you're going to see a lot of 5-tech. So they're just on the outside shoulder of the tackles. Sometimes you'll see them lined up head up. So you'll have a 4-tech or 4-eye, 4 inside. So that's going to be their sphere of influence. And sometimes you'll hear about wide 9s. Like Philadelphia back in the Jim Johnson days, or rest in peace, Trent Cole and was it Jason Babin? Or no, who was that? Maybe it was Babin. But wide 9 is definitely getting on the outside, because even if there wasn't a tight end here, like you would get this wide because you're trying to get that edge, you're trying to get that speed on the edge. There you go. So typically you'll hear 1-3-5 talked about quite a bit, and yeah, that's what it is. I'm not going over that. A couple of shout outs. Purple Rain Skull from Wausau, Wisconsin. Pulford Skull, Nashville, what's up? John Anderson TV, Sweden. Brock Swanson, Casson, Minnesota. Mr. Schwartz, Northern Iowa. Patrick Harms, Cedar Rapids. Jerry Gill, Albany, what's going on? Sammy Vi, straight out of the LBC. Yeah, you know me. Biz Kits, Dayton, OHIO. Anonymous Skull from Kuwait. Hey, thank you for your service, man. And Eric Villabro, Skull from Omaha. You guys are the best. Thanks for coming along. Next up, angling. Who would you say is better, AP in his prime days or Dalvin Cook now? AP. Yeah. Adrian Peterson, like circa 07, 08, 09, 2012, was just a bad dude. Where we've said on here a bunch, Adrian Peterson was born 20 years too late, where his style, like back in the O.J. Simpson days, would have been just, yeah. But Dalvin is a better modern NFL running back. Stylistically, they're different. So Dalvin is a great zone runner. He can run with power for sure. But Adrian is a throwback. Like, he's not as patient of a runner as you would like. He is a old school behind the fullback, bash it up the middle, run man, run gap, run power over and over type running back. And he's certainly not the receiver that Dalvin Cook is. But yeah, and they're primes. And I don't even think we've seen Dalvin's prime yet. But yeah, given their primes right now, Adrian Peterson. Jack Bornicki. If somehow the only lineman we draft is Alex Leatherwood, what's the Vikings starting offensive line? Oh boy. So I like Leatherwood. I'm not in love with him. And I would prefer Leatherwood at tackle because he's played guard inside before. I think his left tackle play is a little bit better than his guard play. So it kind of sucks, but Leatherwood would be left tackle. And then Ezra, Bradbury, maybe Oli Uda, hopefully. And then Brian O'Neill. It's not really a good outcome. And it's not an aspersion on Leatherwood. It's just you would like to have a little bit better depth. Griffin Creer. Now, if the Vikings somehow manage where Leatherwood, let's say that he's a mid-second round pick where the Vikings go offensive line early and then they trade back up for Leatherwood, then you're fine. You're absolutely fine there. Griffin Creer, where does Tevin Jenkins land in your tackle rankings? I have him at 4. So Penne, Darisaw, Slater, Tevin Jenkins at 4. And then I have him slightly above Radens and Cosme. I think that's where we're at. Robert Barweiler. What's your take on Houston wide receiver Marquez Stevenson? If he can stay healthy, he's phenomenal. But that's always an if. But, yeah, absolutely good to go in terms of one of those speedy wide receivers who can return kicks. Derek Baker. Why don't most offensive linemen wear knee braces in the NFL like they do in college? I think it comes down to mobility. I mean, there's a trade-off where, yeah, you do have a little bit more stability, but you can still get your knee ripped up wearing knee braces, even the big bulky ones. But, yeah, it's mainly a mobility thing. Griffin Creer. Would you rather have Barmore or Pay for the next 5 years? I would rather have Pay. But it's close because I think Barmore becomes that dude in 4, 5, 6 years where I think Kwity Paye will be better as an immediate contributor. Football Talk US. What are your top 3 trade-on partners from 14? I'll go with Washington at 19, the Steelers, and maybe the Saints. The Saints have a quarterbacks available. Tristan D. If the Vikings keep the offensive line the way it is or don't address it early in the draft, kiss our Super Bowl hopes goodbye the season. Oh, glass half full. Diego Suarez, what round do you think Mond will go in, and should we consider him? I think he'll go top of the second round, and it's an awkward spot for the Vikings because what do you do? Trade up for Mond or trade down for Mond, and then quarterback is your first pick, and then you have to wait for a third again? Nah. Theodore Olson. What do you think about drafting Parsons if he's there at 14 and move Bard to defensive end? The former, yes. The latter, sort of whatever. I mean, you could work it in as a sub package, but a full-time move to hand their defensive end, yeah. But there's ways that you can use all those guys on the all at once. OTM Snipes, who would you take, healthy Wyatt Davis or AVT? Wyatt Davis. Yeah, I mean Wyatt Davis's 2019 tape, it was just better than AVT's 2019-2020. Abi Asuji, thoughts on March Madness 2021? So I didn't really watch. Well, I didn't watch any of it, but it's fun to fill out brackets. So the wife and I fill out a bracket, and then we compete for. It's usually who picks a movie on movie night, because we have very divergent tastes in movies. Let's just say that. I think I won. I had Bama winning it, but I think I won because, who'd she have? She had like Ohio State or something. A team that got knocked out early. But props to Baylor. Props to Scott Drew. It was prop to Bryce's Drew's brother for winning. There you go. Thomas Dell. Oh, but man, it would have been nice to see Gonzaga win. Jalen Suggs, the pride of the Twin Cities. But what can you do? Thomas DeHike. How good is the Bucks offensive line compared to their defensive line? D-line's better. I mean, D-line has JPP, Shaq Barrett, Golston, and Vita Vea, and Ndamukong Suh. Offensive line, so Donovan Smith is, whatever. Tristan Wirth is a all-pro in the making. Ellie Marpet, the pride of Hobart, is there. I do like Alex Kappa. I mean, so they do have parts in the offensive line, but D-line's better. Is that a recipe for a Super Bowl caliber team? Yes, trenches. How much of that victory belongs to Brady versus the rest of the team? Well, they went 7-9 with Jameis Winston the year before with largely the same team. So I would say, 50-50 with Cristobal. Erickson, would you trade 14 for Jaguars 2 second-round picks and a third? Depends on who is on board at 14. If Darisaw's there at 14, if Parsons or one of the quarterbacks or Devontae or Waddle are there, no. Frankie Watson Brown. Trey Turner still kicking about. Kwity Paye or Aziz if you had to stick a pick at 14. Trey Turner's out there chilling. You'll probably just sign somewhere after the draft. I would take Kwity Paye slightly over Aziz, mainly given his size and prowess against the run. Aziz is probably going to be best served as a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker. John Anthony, Andy, big fan of your work. Thank you. Sailor Jalen Waller, Devontae Smith still on board at 14. Would you be down for a trade down with our buddies, the Ravens, as they jump the Pats? Cardinals get their first and second. Yes. Yes, I would. In that scenario, yes. Griffin Creer, did Darrisaw have his pro day yet? Yeah, it was on March 26th. That was a Friday, right? Let me look. Yeah, March 26th, a Friday. He didn't do any of the testing drills, but he did offensive line drills and looked really good there. But he would have tested fine. I don't really know why he didn't participate. But yeah, from his tape, fluid movement skills, has strength, has everything, so he's good to go there. Football Talk US. Is Tevin Jenkins only right tackle, or can he flip sides like Jedrick Wills did last year? I think he's only right tackle or a guard, where Wills just had that footwork. Plus, he was protecting Tua, and Tua's obviously left-handed, so he was already working the blind side, even though footwork, it's flipped, doesn't really matter. But yeah, Jedrick Wills has the attributes of a left tackle. Jenkins, I don't know if he has the feet, but yeah, he can be a slobber knocker right tackle. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Zerbizkit. Say we don't get any new starting offensive lineman, will the offensive line be decent with player progression training, or just as bad as last year? Well, if it's Dozier and Rashad Hill out there, it's going to be bad. But if they don't add anyone, which I think is unlikely, both in the draft and remaining free agency, I mean, if left to right, it's Ezra, Kyle Hinton, Bradbury, Oli Udoh, and Brian O'Neill. That is my, hey, betting on upside wet dream. But I would prefer that than Dakota Dozier or Rashad Hill touching that field. I would. Eli Polonis. Christian Umpoff has huge upside coming out of Illinois State. I think he'd be a huge grab for the Vikings in the late rounds. Oh, yeah, and Zimmer's also an Illinois State alum, so he's got that going for him. Plus, his former teammate Luther Kirk is on the Vikings roster. Yeah, Umpoff had a nice career. And because where did he transfer in from? Or was he a transfer guy? He had a good Senior Bowl. I remember that. Yeah. Mr. Schwartz 3. Or was Luther Kirk a transfer? I guess it doesn't matter. Actually, I think Kirk was a transfer. Mr. Schwartz 3. Who has the most upside and why? Trask, Mills, or Newman? Probably Mills. Yeah, probably Mills given the size and arm strength. I think Mon's frame is holding him back, even though purely arm strength-wise, not arm talent, arm strength, because arm talent, arm strength are two separate things. But arm strength-wise, Mon might have the strongest arm in the draft. But Mills, in terms of, he doesn't really have that big of a body work at Stanford, but does have arm, does have size. Same thing with Jamie Newman to a degree. I think Trask may have topped out a little bit at Florida. Perfect scheme, catered to his skill set. Plus, the lack of mobility with Trask is certainly concerning. Ben Weatherly. This is optimistic, but do you think the Vikings have ignored the interior offensive line because they're just going to take AVT at 14? It's a possibility, but also, AVT might go in the top 13 picks. You look at teams with guard needs. You look at the Eagles, depending on what happens with Brooks at 12. You look at the Chargers could still take AVT. You look at the Giants, they cut Zeitler. Will Hernandez hasn't really panned out either. The Cowboys certainly have a need at guard. Connor Williams sucks. So if that's the plan, it might be a bad plan. Scott Lean. Jalen Darden at 90, wide receiver and punt return specialist. Yeesh. AJ Barnes, in your opinion, can you name the top college that produces the best NFL players for each position? I won't say in the trenches. Well, defensive line, we'll go with Alabama. Bama just gets after it. We'll say front seven, too, because linebackers will toss in there. Yeah, LSU, DBs. And this is massively overgeneralizing. I'd say solid offensive lineman. Wisconsin is up there. Iowa is up there. Quarterbacks. Man, there isn't really a QBU. I guess Oklahoma to a degree. But, TBD what happens with Baker and Kyler and Hurts and Spencer Rattler. Let's see, wide receivers. Oh, LSU. LSU could be wide receiver U too. Because you got Jamar Chase, you got Landry, you got OBJ, you got Justin friggin' Jefferson, you got Terrence Marshall. There's another LSU wide receiver that's going to be in this draft. I forget what his name is. See, running back wise, it used to be the U. Maybe it's Alabama now too. Linebacker U used to be USC. but hasn't really worked out lately. Yeah, that's about it. David Ruiz. It's really unfortunate the Vikings will probably have to go offensive line instead of BPA at 14. Well, the way the board might break down, BPA and offensive line might be that. It could be Darisaw. It could be Slater. Samson Romaine, would you rather trade our first and third to Baltimore for Orlando Brown and their second, or trade up in the draft for Sewell? Depends on how high you trade up. I'm fine giving up a future first and some change for Penei Sewell, but 3 1s, no. Nah. Robert Lagare. Who's the greatest UDFA in Vikings history? It's got to be John Randall, right? Adam Thielen's a nice story, but yeah, he's not on John Randall's level. Tristan D. When do you think Boogie Basham will go in the draft? He's a draft crush of mine, and the Vikings can trade up to get him. I don't know. I feel like there will be a handful of edge guys that go on the back end of the first round, but it's going to be, what's your flavor? Jason Away is going to be there. Phillips, Rousseau, potentially. Joe Tryon, maybe Ronnie Perkins gets up in there. Boogie Basham, Joseph Asai. So I think the Basham goes top 50, but I wouldn't be shocked if he fell out of the first round. And if you want maneuver, go get him. Yes. Hendrik Byerlev. Assuming Darisaw is taken at 13, if you were GM, are you sticking at 14 and grab BPA, or do you trade back? Depends who the BPA is. If it's one of the receivers, or if it's a quarterback, or if it's a cornerback, yeah, I'll just stick and pick. Ted Shiffin, unless you get blown away with an offer. My draft crust for Joke is growing. How can he be best fit on the defense? All over. If he doesn't have a catered position on defense, create one. And I think Zimmer should be flexible enough to do that. It can't be an Isaiah Simmons situation in Arizona where you try to jam him in to a position that's already made. No, he's just a dynamic sub-package player. Have him play safety, have him play third linebacker, have him rush the passer, have him do everything. Yes. Oakview. If the Niners trade us number 3 for Kirk and then we draft Fields, how would you feel? I would be floored. How the hell did you get number 3? We would have settled for 12. Why'd you have to trade up? But, yeah, that's not going to happen. Andrew Hansen, do you think that the blatant neglect of the offensive line free agency and the Vikings are leaning towards guys like Hinton to have a big impact this year? I think it's more of a byproduct because the Vikings were in on some of those offensive linemen. They just didn't get it. And sure, Hinton and Udo could be a fallback plan, could be the Alamo, but, yeah. Thor War. Would you rather have Darisaw or Landon Dickerson and Creed Humphrey? Wait, so you can have both? So you have 2 guys that are top, 45-ish talents, or Darisaw? I'll take the 2 guys because then you have 2 tickets. But I mean, Darisaw's that guy. What player could realistically be available at 14? Would you want besides offensive line? Quiddy Pay, Devontae Smith, maybe Waddle, maybe. Mac Jones or Trey Lance, maybe. I'm still in the minority here, but I would be okay with Barmore at 14. So besides offensive line, so we can't say Tevin Jenkins. Parsons, obviously. Muscusi. Joke. Morig to a degree. J.C. Horn, Farley, if his medicals are good. Surtain, yes. I even like Newsom. Yeah. So, I mean, the Vikings are going to have a lot of options at 14. So, we'll see what happens there. But that's it. That's the Daily Jerome's live stream for today. You guys are the best. Thanks for coming along. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes and videos and whatnot. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Skull, production value.